The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Mark.
Glory be to thee, O Lord.
Jesus and his disciples passed through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to thee, Lord Christ.
This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That woman that Proverbs describes is incredible. Now, lest you think that writer is being sexist, let's take a look at the qualities that are listed here about those who fear the Lord. I need to remind you, guys, these characteristics just are not about the female species. I want you to also to remember, everyone, that the word fear used in this context is more closely related to respecting, honoring, and being in relationship, not the way we usually think of that word fear, meaning to be afraid of. The attributes of the persons that are described in these lessons are their humility. They can be trusted. They treat others as they wish to be treated, with respect and kindness. These individuals provide for their family and those in their household. They are financially savvy and physically capable. These are persons who are not afraid of hard work and reach out to others who are in need. They take good care of their homes, keeping them in good condition without letting things fall through the cracks, literally. And one of the most important qualities is that when they speak, it is with thought before opening their mouths and speaking the truth in love. They have a good sense of who they are and who they are not, giving praise to God for the gifts that they have been given. In Psalm 1, these qualities are stated in another way, with verse 6 emphasizing that God knows the righteous and the wicked. We cannot hide behind camouflage or a mask. We cannot hide from God because God is all-knowing. God knows every single pore of our being, inside and out, the good, the bad, the ugly. And Psalm 1 cuts to the heart of the human condition. Now let us take a moment to to refresh us about what the Psalms are. They're a body of liturgical poetry designed for vocal and congregational use, whether by singing or chanting or reading. And there are several traditional methods of psalmody. Some we chant, again, and sometimes we say them in unison. However, there are other traditional methods that we use in order to not make the Psalter monotonous. The first is by direct recitation, by reading the whole psalm or a portion of the psalm in unison. Another method that we just used is the antiphonal recitation, which is the verse by verse alternation between groups of singers or readers, such as between the choir and congregation, or between one side of the congregation and the other, or the reader of the psalm and the congregation. Finally, responsive recitation is another method, and that's the one we just used, the alternative method. You know, we're blessed with a prayer book that is incredibly rich in liturgical resources to ensure that our worship can be kept fresh and to keep us from getting trapped in just saying the words over and over, often not hearing their meaning. Liturgy done well has a rhythm, and it has a life very much of its own that draws us deeper into the holy and our worship experience. I was blessed when I came to Sewanee on sabbatical from the Diocese of Iowa to have Marion Hatchett as my liturgical professor. Marion was one of the authors of the 79 prayer book and the 82 hymnal. He knew that hymnal and that prayer book backwards and forwards. And it's rumored before his death and even after his death that he had the next prayer book edition and hymnal hidden away in his attic. I don't know about that. Anyway, so let's turn to the letter of James that talks about the characteristics of the wise which come from the Lord. You know, and one of the things that we have to realize is they don't come from a platform of self-interest, which might be described, it's all about me, 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 me. I imagine it's not hard for us to think about some of those that we have met whose primary concern is themselves and getting what they want in spite of anything or anyone else. The name for this condition is narcissism, with a life that is self-centered and is quite the opposite of the person described in the Proverbs. There is a poem that I love and will never forget from Shel Silverstein. It's called Where the Sidewalk Ends, and it's about this type of self-centered person. And it says, if you want to marry me, here's what you'll have to do. You must learn how to make a perfect chicken dumpling stew, and you must sew my holy socks and soothe my troubled mind and develop the knack for scratching my back. And keep my shoes spotlessly shined, and while I rest, you must rake up the leaves. And when it's hailing and snowing, you must shovel the walk, and be still when I talk. And, hey, where are you going? I wonder. And in Mark, Jesus directly challenges the disciples who are squabbling among themselves about who is better than who. I can just imagine what Jesus was thinking. Oh, goodness, will they never, ever get it? That life is about living in and through God and not about their egos. Jesus is the greatest teacher of all, and that was his primary ministry, was teaching. And he responds to the disciples' argument using a very clear example that demonstrates that those who wish to be first must be able to be last. And a very clear example of that. And those people must be willing to care for all persons. I just love that final description of Jesus picking up the little child. And the face of that child is lit up with a smile as he looks at Jesus. And Jesus is smiling back at that precious child. And Jesus says, whoever welcomes one such as this child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, just me, but the one who sent me. You know, one of the joys about a young child is there is no pretense. What you see is what you get, whether you like it or not. What you see is what you get. And there is a sense of wonder they have in the smallest things in life, and they are the embodiment of our Creator. C.S. Lewis once said that often adults lose that childlike wonderment and become nothing more than deteriorated children. I don't want to be a deteriorating child. And it's also been said that no matter how tight the mask that we try to wear on our faces, a child's eyes cannot be hidden. And finally, should we forget how we are to live our lives as creatures of God, we only need to revisit today's readings to rediscover the attributes of those who truly love God and seek to live as God intends, with trust in God's never, ever ending presence. Amen.
Amen.
And now let us stand.